when you believe that Jesus died for your sins, then or confession, there's no rectification needed to the victim. The victim is not in the equation, right? It's just you and God, apparently.
It's very selfish.
It's very selfish. There's nothing that is an indication that has a scientific background for it that isn't either confirmed by science or science hasn't said anything about it yet. The Prophet Muhammad, when he was talking to the Arabs, he said that there will come a time when the barefooted Arabs will compete in making tall buildings. Now the tallest building in the world is in, I think it's Dubai, right? Yeah, so it's actually pretty profound that he made this prophecy that long ago, and it's a testament to like that his knowledge wasn't coming from himself, or what he was professing wasn't coming from himself, it was coming from the Creator.
Thing with, no, you said already, it comes after. It comes after, okay.
Yeah, if you
okay,
before Islam, like they're asking like when someone becoming Muslim, the sin before Islam, like it's you think all white that there's no.
Oh yeah, okay. So in Islam, hi, by the way, there's two types of sins, right? There's a sin with the Creator, and then there's a sin with the people. But those sins between you and people, those are not forgiven. You have to go and try and rectify those sins. So
make it better with individual.
Exactly. You have to go to those people. You have to try and seek their forgiveness. Try and make it right. If you stole something, give it back. If it's not returnable, then give the value. Right. So it's a bit different compared to Christianity, because in Christianity, when you believe that Jesus died for your sins, then or confession, there's no rectification needed to the victim. The victim is not in the equation, right? It's just you and God, apparently.
It's very selfish.
It's very selfish because if you think about it, a lot of times the Christian will claim, well, if they're Christian, then they should forgive you. But we say, what if they're not Christian? If it's a Hindu person or non-Christian, then how do you rectify that with them if they're not wanting to forgive you? Like we bring the extreme example of rape or pedophilia and these kinds of things because Catholics have that in their history. So what about that situation? Are the victims of the native people that endured all of those great crimes that were caused by the Catholic Church, are the Catholic fathers forgiven for that outright without any rectification needed by the victim? And if the victim, let's say those Catholic fathers were given a punishment in this worldly life, let's say that the victim didn't feel like that punishment was enough, that they wanted to still have that a more just punishment. Like let's say they only got a year and a half or something in jail and were able to be released on. They didn't feel that they got justice, right? Is that possible for the victim to then ask the Creator, hey, I want this justice given to me because it wasn't given to me in this worldly life? We believe in Islam that is a possibility, that we can have that the victim is allowed to get their justice. Whereas Christians will say, no, the victim should reflect and think why that happened to them and all these weird things. Change themselves, but the victim, that's victim blaming, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
you can only take responsibility so far as a person that is a victim of a crime, right? Like for example, if you're walking in a high crime neighborhood waving wads of cash, and then you later get robbed,
it was your fault for holding.
There is a responsibility there, right, that you have to accept. But in the case of somebody that's been raped, we can't really say that they're the reason.
They're not in fault.
Yeah. So for that reason, we say that Islam has a better, more just, more sound version more justified version of seeking forgiveness versus any other religion, because of that ability for those sins that you committed against a human being, that victim has the right to justice, whereas in any other one, they kind of just leave the victim off to the side and say that your relationship with God is all that matters. So that's kind of why we don't really see that as fair. Yeah, go ahead.
This one, like as I was just telling him, we have a good friend of ours that I suppose you could say claims he's Muslim, but in regards to this, he does not believe in any sort of woman's rights, to put it fairly, I guess the easiest way. But
he's not a good person in general.
Sorry, I want to just grab.
Yeah, go. No, it's all for you. You take whatever you want.
It's the ones that
that you know will be
immediately.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Science in Islam.
Well, yeah, exactly. We have, as I said, our friend does not believe in any sort of science, so I'd love to actually be informed.
Yeah, no, like our perspective on science is that that it is not. It doesn't give us absolute knowledge.
It's not complete.
Yeah.
Is it ever complete?
Yeah. So like, an easy example we can say is like when I was a young kid, eggs was good for you. Then halfway through my adolescence, all of a sudden it was bad for you. And then now they're discovering again it's good for you. So it can always change and it can be wrong, right?
Cancer, you know, that you say peanut butter caused cancer.
Peanut butter caused cancer. They used to think that the Earth was the center of the universe, right?
Yep.
Then they realized that no, the Earth is not the center, the sun is. Then they realized no, the sun actually isn't the center. It actually moves around the Milky Way galaxy. And then they didn't go farther. They actually said, oh, this whole Milky Way galaxy actually moves around this. They're always discovering more, right?
We know nothing.
So that's why for us, we don't necessarily take science as our standard, but what you would find in the Quran, for example, is there's nothing that is an indication that has a scientific background for it that isn't either confirmed by science or science hasn't said anything about it yet. So for example, there's mentioning of waves under the ocean. Now, science discovered this recently in the 20th.
The new ocean under the water?
Yeah, that there's waves under the ocean along the ground. But it was mentioned in the Quran 1400 years ago. So it begs the question, how did a non-educated man in the desert with bare feet know about that stuff, right? When he didn't have scuba gear or anything to go down. So it's kind of interesting.
Sorry, speaking kind of on that, pivoting from it. What is it? I believe it's either Egypt, Sudan, or Jordan. I forget. There's a river that's drying up at the moment, which is mentioned in the Quran.
And they're supposed to have a war from the east or something like that?
Not a war, but perhaps a...
I think that's Christian. I think that's
religious kind of...
Yeah, like
I believe it's Christian. They think that
it's in mention.
China's supposed to have the big war with and join Russia.
No, I think it's connected. I think it's what you're talking about. It might be. I'm not sure, but it might be the Euphrates.
Yeah, that's the exact. That's the river.
It sounds familiar. But there are a lot of signs connected to the Day of Judgment, right?
Yeah.
One that you guys can take with you that kind of is compelling for me because I wasn't always Muslim, but when I heard this one, it was like, whoa. The Prophet Muhammad, when he was talking to the Arabs in Quraysh, he said that there will come a time when the barefooted Arabs will compete in making tall buildings. And at the time, the tallest structure was a hut, was like a not even two-story thing. Everything was ranchers at that time, right?
Yeah.
So now, if you think about it, right, he made this prophecy 1450 years ago, and at that time there wasn't anything that was indicative of like that's a potential to happen. Like there's no plausibility to that prophecy actually happening, right? And that's why it's so profound because now the tallest building in the world is in as a brother, the Burj Khalifa, and I think it's Dubai, right? Yeah. So it's actually pretty profound that he made this prophecy that long ago, and it's a testament to like that his knowledge wasn't coming from himself, or what he was professing wasn't coming from himself. It was coming from the Creator. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
No problem, guys. If you guys ever have any more questions, we're here. If it's raining, we're going to be here. If it's sunny, we're at Holland Park.
Okay.
Okay? Good to see you guys. See you later.